What is going on? Hope you guys liked episode 5 of Survivor Wisconsin Season 2 Cabin Fever. The merge is full on now as we saw the first member of our jury be eliminated. We're going to dive into all that. A little bit of some backstabbing, a little bit of some lying and planning that didn't go as planned. So check the episode out before you watch this because we're going to spoil it all. We're going to break it down to help you guys understand maybe better what happened in that damn episode. Because I think some of the players don't even know what the hell just happened to them. So we're going to dive into it and stay tuned. Episode 6, hopefully in a couple days, maybe next week. We'll see where it goes. And to stay up to date on that, go to our Instagram, idol.identifiers, follow it. Stay up to date, get all the links, all the good stuff. But again, on our YouTube here, subscribe, like this video. We'd really appreciate it. So now I'm going to be joined by my co-host, no one other than Richie Rich Dog, Survivor Whitewater legend. Made the merge. But kind of been sucking in Survivor Wisconsin. But we'll let him in. We'll let him in, I guess. We'll let him in. And there is the co-host, Richie Rich Dog. How the hell's it going? How is your Tuesday night going?
It's going pretty damn good. How is yours going?
Pretty good. Pretty epic episode again. Might have been a little confusing to the viewers because a lot of whispering going on, but at the same time, some of those players seems like they don't even know what the hell just happened. What do you think of the episode, Richie?
I'll definitely get into more of my thoughts as we go into it, but I definitely think it was really good, really interesting, and the fact that it was definitely more unpredictable than other episodes have been, I think that makes it even better. So I'm excited.
Yeah, completely agree. So we kind of start with the episode of us revealing that it is a merge of 7 people. No more Redemption Island. No more saving anybody through that. And we see the end of the Kyle Wilson officially leaving the house. Matt and Richie stayed on and watched the whole thing play out, helped out. Kyle Wilson was not having it anymore. And we saw the end of the Keel verse. And you could see our boy Kyle Shield still felt bad even about being fake little mean to him. So we went and gave him a hug goodbye. Kyle Wilson seemed like he wasn't really having it, but we say goodbye to Kyle Wilson, and that was filmed by no one other than Rich Dog. So,
I definitely thought that was so funny when we got that because I just remember they're talking, they're going back and forth. Kyle Wilson's about to leave, and I see Kyle start running up over there. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like I have my phone. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm getting this on camera because it's either going to be really funny or it's really dramatic. Like something was about to happen. So I am surprised that Kyle Wilson just leaked all of that to Kyle Shield though about everything that happened.
I know, and
I
we
think
don't
he
want
would
that.
just
That's the thing. We usually don't want that to happen, but I mean, it is what it is. But
yeah.
again, it's Kyle.
I don't feel like it really. Knowing Kyle Shield, I don't know if it really affected his game, but
Right? Yeah. It didn't. I don't think at all. So.
But like, I did think it was kind of like the whole scene though was just kind of like fun to watch.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, it was. Say officially by Kyle Wilson. So then we get to the merge, and we start off a little bit different in this episode as we interview everybody before the challenge. And there's a lot of chaos going on, people looking around for things like that. Pretty early on, we see Dolphin Sam find an advantage, another new advantage. This one called the Ozzy advantage, which a little bit probably was unsure how it works, but essentially how it works is Dolphin Sam will get an advantage in one of the next 3 challenges. He has to use it. So when there's final 7, 6, or 5 is when he can use it. The advantage in the challenge will be as it kind of plays out, and he will be able to see the challenge before it happens in order to play it. So, we hit that one a little bit obvious. It was on top of the board game. We kind of got it on camera. I had that one. We hit that one a little more in plain sight because it's a good advantage, but it's not like an idol
like
or
overpowered.
Yeah, it's still big. If you need help in a challenge to maybe get a little further along. So Dolphin Sam has yeah, right, right. So Dolphin Sam now has that and Steal Vote. Doesn't talk much strategy in his interview, but that was interesting to watch. And then we also see Kyle Shield find this first ever real thing in all these times playing. This is the first time he ever found anything. He finds a safety without power advantage, which is a crazy advantage to get. If you're in trouble, if you feel like you might be going home, or you feel like you want to just not get your hands dirty, you can leave that tribal before anything happens. So we'll see how that plays out with Kyle. It's good till there are, I believe it is 5 people left. So it's pretty damn crazy to have. And then there's just a lot of talking going on, a lot of talking about getting Jasper out. So what'd you think, Richie, of just all the talking going on? I know there's a lot of different conversations. Um, Jasper seems like he thinks it's him, Dakota, Emma, Arthur, and Dan against Kyle and Sam. And then it seems like everybody else kind of just thinks it's everybody against Jasper. It's kind of like everybody kind of has their own opinion of what's going on. Arthur had a different opinion too. So it was a lot going on for a
Oh yeah.
merge of 7 people. It was still pretty crazy to break down what the hell's going on.
Oh yeah. Like I definitely think it was kind of funny how like everyone immediately goes to like when I was watching the episode, I had the entire vibe that Jasper essentially like from what everyone was saying before the challenge, they were all agreeing like yeah, like we're keeping our distance from Jasper because he keeps like not like saying anything or he won't say anything to us, and they don't know like who he really trusts. Because even Dan at one point was saying like yeah, he wasn't talking to us either when talking to Dakota. He's like yeah, he's not talking to us either about what he has or what he doesn't have, and I'm trying to keep my distance from him, which I definitely think was really good that Dan was smart enough to kind of be careful with what he told to Jasper, because Jasper doesn't seem to. I don't want to say in the season that Jasper doesn't have a filter, but like it kind of seems like it's very obvious when something's going on with Jasper. So Dan's smart enough to not really tell Jasper, I think, about the idol and certain things about it, but like I don't think it was smart that Dan told Dakota this, because then all it kind of tells them is that, like, yeah, like if they are going tribal lines, original tribal lines, and it just says, like, yeah, like we get out Jasper, and then the other two will just be easy 1-2. Or, like, pull in Jasper and then take out the other two one by one. But, I mean, that's what I would have thought of hearing that from Dan. So I'm surprised he was very honest with Dakota, like, right off the bat with it when, should he have been? I don't know. But,
Yeah.
definitely Kyle's safety without power thing. Every time I see that advantage, I think of stuff with Survivor SNC with how one guy used it, Ronnie Match, how he used it to create so much drama in the Men versus Women season we did, and just every time I hear safety without power, I think of that, and I look at Kyle getting this advantage, and I'm like, is Kyle gonna use this? Is it gonna work for him, or is it just gonna stir shit up like a little bit? Because it's a lot more fun to see it stirred up than it is just to keep someone safe. So
Yeah, and I
at least
mean,
to me.
going off Kyle too, we see him. Yeah, maybe he's just playing it for the camera or not, but he says that he thinks the biggest threat is Dolphin Sam, and then he says
Oh yeah.
in his interview after getting this hit to a power that this is his villain arc. Maybe it's time to get Dakota out. So, what'd you kind of think of that? Do you think he was just kind of saying that because we obviously see later in the episode he
Yeah.
doesn't turn against him or do anything to kind of maybe do that?
Oh yeah. So firstly, with the Dakota part, I mean, I'm not really surprised that Dakota's name is probably being thrown out, because everyone knows Dakota is a pretty physical player, and people don't really exactly know too much about like what each challenge is going to be. So it's like it's always a safe assumption to assume like yeah, like getting Dakota out could help them later in the game. I think people have seen in Battle Royale she's pretty decent at challenges to get her to the end, as the final challenge before the final tribal that took Maggie out of the game, Dakota essentially won pretty easily over her. So it's like, with all that in mind, it's a safe assumption with Dakota. But with Dolphin Sam, but the fact that his name is finally starting to get thrown out as a big threat is kind of like a big major thing, just because no one's actually at this point has said it. So like, even if they are thinking it, they're not like willing to go on it right now. So the fact that Kyle Shields finally going out there saying like, yeah, like he's a big threat, I don't know if I can take him too far in the later half of this game. It's just kind of a big thing that's coming out of nowhere, but it's observation that kind of someone's finally starting to see. So
yeah, it was interesting to watch. I mean, nothing else really crazy happens. Again, it's just a lot of conversations, a lot of kind of just focusing on getting Jasper out. And yeah, essentially Dan's idol gets talked about a little bit, but they want to get Jasper out is kind of the goal at this point. So then we head into the first individual immunity challenge, which was an arm wrestling challenge. We did the bracket randomly. We gave Emma the bye, and fun fact: this is why we watch podcasts. Get a little information of little behind the scenes. Is Hunter really wanted to do this challenge, and originally when we had more females playing in this season, we were gonna do actually two different brackets, and we were gonna have one a female bracket for the arm wrestling and a male bracket for the arm wrestling. So there would have been two people safe for this immunity challenge. Obviously, people backed out, and I know it was a little bit unfair for Dakota or Emma, but we still kind of stuck through it, and Jasper just absolutely dominated everybody in the challenge. Um, I mean, it wasn't really even close. So Jasper wins immunity then, which he was public enemy number one, and he just won immunity. Which does he even know that he was public enemy number one? Didn't seem like it, and he needed it bad.
Oh yeah, like I thought it was kind of funny that because Jasper is fun to watch, but like when you kind of watch it in general, like Jasper up to this point strategically has seemingly played very bad. He's put himself in a position where no one trusts him. So the fact that he needed it may not be the best for his game, but the fact that he actually got it could like be something good for his game in general. I do kind of think it was a little ironic though that like the second that he gets it, like Dakota's like shit. Like you literally see in her face, she's like, "Oh shit! Like we're screwed now. Like we have to think of everything different now because." And I think some people were questioning whether like, oh, this person could have an idol, this person could have an idol, so what are we going to do now? And, the other four aren't going to want to go against each other, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was kind of funny, like the whole sequence of events where Jasper's pretty clearly winning, and then Dakota's like, okay, well, this sucks. Again, like, kind of like her post-challenge reactions every time are just so funny. Like, when she loses something or when her alliance loses, she just gets so, not like so angry, but it's funny to watch. Like, she'll kick a ball, she'll be like, fuck this. Like, it was just the funniest shit ever. So.
She wears her emotions on her sleeve. We got that for sure after challenges. So then obviously everything gets chaotic because the plan was let's 6-1 Jasper, right? Is what everyone's kind of saying. So kind of everybody's kind of thinking their own opinion. Dakota and Dan talk right away again to each other saying, "Damn it, Jasper won." I even make a comment, so is it Jasper versus the world? And they're kind of like, yeah. And they both kind of just go into talking like, who are we going to go for? Dakota kind of hints at maybe going for Arthur, but Dan said that's one of his biggest allies. At this point, it is. I mean, from the pre-merge. And then we just kind of dive into it where there's a lot of talk about possibly splitting Dan and Arthur up, possibly getting that idol out that Dan has that he leaks out. Arthur saw him find it, and then Arthur kind of out of nowhere just kind of like just spills the damn tea, telling everybody that he thinks him and Dakota have idols, which Dakota actually does have an idol too. And he says that he's down to go for Dan, which is a crazy development. So we'll dive into that part first. Obviously, a lot more happens with what they ended up wanting to do more. So what do you think of all that kind of so far?
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I actually forgot Dakota found the other idol after Kyle Wilson got back in the game for a second time. Like I actually almost forgot that Dakota found the idol again because it was just. Like it was a big dramatic thing that happened, especially with like her versus Kyle Wilson. But like, I feel like just with the events of everything in the episode, like, you almost forget Dakota has the idol. But the fact that Arthur's able to get a pretty good read on it is like at least something good. That like Arthur's not just sitting around doing nothing. He's able to at least observe what's going on. And then the fact that Jasper, everyone's like, yeah, it's Jasper versus the world. Like, I mean, it's probably a basic statement with it, but it's like, that's not the best for Jasper's game because now he might have, this is what they're already saying at the beginning of the merge, he's going to have to now win out till the end if he expects to get to the end, or at least that's how it's coming off right now. Obviously, the game can change, but as we're currently seeing, there's only a couple people who seemingly are actually playing strategically, a couple people who are playing on the basis of competitions, where everyone else just may not be fully playing the game right now. So it could change in the future, but Jocelyn may have to win out to the end, just based off of what everyone's already saying. The split vote is definitely, I think, the right thing to do, though. The fact that I believe it was Dolphin Sam that came up with it, the overarching idea of it, which is definitely a smart move, because at this point, it's like it's the best move they can do. Like, if they already have Jasper on their side, like, then boom. Yeah. Like assumption is let's split it 3-2-2. Doesn't matter what happens. Like if someone uses the idol on the 3 vote person, The other two go into a tie, and then you just vote off the other target at hand. Like, it doesn't matter who's involved in the tie. So
Yeah.
I feel like it just kind of adds more to Dolphin Sam's resume with this. And I feel like the fact that even after, like, before some people were starting to question him, now after the challenge, Dolphin Sam's immediately able to be all like, no, like, don't, like, it's not going to be me. It's going to be someone else entirely. Like, it was a pretty decent move. Like, he's kind of, like, it's kind of very clear he's in control. But again, only like Kyle Shields really started to notice this, like, to that point where other people may question it. Kyle Shields is the only one that seemingly we've seen to fully notice it, from my recollection at least. So I definitely think that the split vote was a really great idea. And, if Dolphin Sam makes the end, it's something that I definitely think he could use on his resume to say, like, hey, like, I got control really easily at the beginning of the merge because that.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, earlier in the episode, too, the episode is called Illuminati because Jasper was saying, he said he's got Emma and Dakota, Arthur and Dan, and then he's at the point of it. And he, talks to Dakota and Dan after the challenge saying that he doesn't really trust Dolphin Sam or Kyle because he's never been on their tribes, which is fair. But Dakota and Dan immediately back up Dolphin Sam, too, and say that he thinks he's pretty trustworthy. And Dakota says, I haven't talked to Kyle in a while since we switched tribes up. So they kind of use that then as a selling point to say, well, we need to go for Dolphin Sam. I mean, we need to go for Dan and get this idol out. Even though Dolphin Sam even says, I like Dan, but that idol is dangerous and scary. And he even goes on. They kind of go on to say that maybe they go for Kyle because they said Kyle's kind of floating all over the place. Doesn't seem like he has a for sure agenda. I know Kyle brought up Dakota and Dolphin Sam previously, but clearly he's not making a motive to even think about going for them, or maybe pairing up with Dan and Arthur to maybe make a move. So that kind of just gets eliminated. And Dolphin Sam kind of talks to Jasper and Kyle and says, this is what we're doing. We're going to vote. Us three are going to vote for Dan, and the two girls are going to vote for Arthur. And if Dan plays the idol, then we're going to take Arthur out. If not, Dan's out with the idol. So that's kind of what the plan is at this point. Kyle's cool with it. It seems like Jasper's cool with it too. And they essentially kind of then, we pan over to kind of Dakota and Emma talking with Arthur and Dan, and they kind of bring up Kyle, and they just kind of sell the point, like, I guess let's go for Kyle. So they're kind of just using Kyle as bait to vote for Kyle, even though Kyle's not the target. And even they kind of talk about it, and Kyle's like, wait, what? Like, we're just freely using me? And then Kyle's like, yeah, I guess that's fine. So it's kind of interesting to watch all that, hey?
I definitely think it was something that was like, when Kyle realizes he's being thrown out as a potential target, like, I love Kyle, but if it was anyone but Kyle, they would immediately probably recognize that they're on the bottom of their alliance. Because if you're willing to sacrifice, the one person you're willing to sacrifice is usually the person on the bottom. And, like, I'm surprised that Kyle didn't at least maybe go up and talk to them about, like, switching the vote to someone else. Like, I mean, like, if he's a very loyal player, which is very good because it makes people want to come up and talk to him, but it kind of gives me vibes with Legends where he kept saying, like, I want to play harder, more villainous, more aggressively, but then ultimately, I don't want to say he didn't, but, like, most of it is just kind of, like, very similar vibes where it's like he says he wants to do it, but then he doesn't. And it's like, we all love Kyle. He's a great social player, but
I know.
It's like he had a real opportunity to kind of switch shit up and, like, shake it up, switch everything up, and he unfortunately didn't take it, but it does keep him in a decent spot, so he could do something in the future with it, but who knows?
I know, and it's tough because obviously Kyle's played, this is his 6th time playing, first in Survivor Wisconsin, but he played 5 times before that, I believe. So
he's 6 times.
He's, I mean, one of the most veteran players. He's played the most, so I love Kyle. It's just unfortunate why, like, on some of these player ranks, I can't rank him super high because even though he's thinking the right things what to do, he doesn't take initiative to do it. I feel like he needs somebody else kind of aside of someone kind of telling him, like, let's do this kind of thing. Like I feel like if Arthur or Dan came up to him and thought of this idea, he would do it with them. I think then he'd be like, all right, well, I have people.
Definitely, yeah.
I feel like he doesn't feel like he's not taking the chance to go out of his way and do that because he does seem like he wants to stay with Dolphin Sam and Dakota, even though he says they're big threats, which they are. He's still not really willing to back out of them. Will he do it later on in this season? Time will tell. Not going to ruin it for spoilers. Not going to ruin it for the viewers. But again, it's not looking like he's going to do that. I mean,
Well, and like in defense of Kyle with this, like say he tries to go with the move and like tries to do this move, goes with Arthur and Dan, they could easily just leak this back to them, and they could already think like, well, Kyle was already like the number 4 spot in our alliance, so now they're like he's not trustworthy and he's on the bottom. Let's just get him out and then get trust with the others or something like that. Like unlikely, but I wouldn't imagine that couldn't have crossed his head like when this was going on to like flat out like, oh well, they could just go after me if Arthur and Dan decide like, oh well, you know.
Yeah, no, it's tough, and I mean, you know, again, yeah, the information could have got back from him, but I mean, if Kyle goes up to Dan Arthur and says, "Yeah, they're going for you guys too," I mean, like, I feel like
Oh yeah,
they would
like
kind of be like, "All right, well, we're not going to back. Why would he tell us that for just shits?"
oh
So
exactly,
I
yeah.
think
Like it'd be
he's
a weird situation, but I can't imagine like the info going back wouldn't have been on his mind. Like overall, I still think it's a worse move that Kyle didn't do this,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, sometimes people don't want to make that move too early, too. But again, like you said, when you're hearing them just be fine with using your name as a sacrificial lamb as the throw-in vote, I mean, that's never usually a good sign. We've seen that, obviously, the real show, yeah. But in our Survivor, I think, like in Whitewater, maybe not so Wisconsin, but in Whitewater, that you could tell who the hell is on the bottom every time when there's a lot of votes at somebody where seasons that happen. Like, for example, at Ashley, I believe, and Last Chance was used as a vote a bunch of times, and she didn't seem like she cared. Um, so nothing really else kind of transpires. Just Arthur just kind of surprisingly says he's cool with going for Dan. Leaks all this information out saying that he wants to get him or Dakota's idols out, and that they're kind of running the game is what he's kind of thinking. So what do you think of that?
Um, the fact that they're wanting to get all these idols out of the way is a great initiative. But the thing is that, like, if you're trying to focus so hard in getting all these idols and advantages flushed out of the game, you could just miss the obvious moves that need to be made. Which, I mean, like, I kind of like the big thing is that everyone's so focused on, like, flushing Dan's idol. Everyone's so busy thinking about, like, does Dakota have an idol? Like, they're not thinking, like, hey, who's actually in control of this? Like, where is a lot of these plans and rumors and everything? Like, where is this all starting from? And I think the fact that they're not thinking the obvious thing, like let's go for the person in power, let's go for Sam. It's good for him that no one's doing this, but like I think in a different cast, everyone would see right through this, like flat out.
So
But
you think part of that is just some of the players' lack of playing and lack of playing. Not even so like I'm not saying Dakota or Kyle haven't played a lot because Kyle played in Legends, but maybe not playing
yeah,
against stacked casts or just obviously like Jasper and Dan, and I'm a first time playing, kind of just they're still learning, and that's why it's hard to blame them. But when there's people like
yeah.
Kyle who's played this many times, I love you, Kyle, if you watch this, but Kyle, has played so many times more than anybody, and I know like you don't want to turn him this quickly, but I mean I feel like you could bring up a pretty good case to get him out here, maybe next round even. So
Oh yeah, like I think like the cast wise, not that the cast isn't playing the game, but it's like up to this point, we've only seen Arthur and Dan make votes based off of challenge performances. We've seen Sam dominate the game. We've seen Kyle Shield kind of going along with the flow like he normally does, which definitely in the pre-merge of the game is the smartest thing you can do. Like keep your
right,
mouth shut, head low, go with the flow because it makes you less of a threat. And then the other time we've seen Dakota take over the rings when the swap happened, and then Jasper is Jasper. I don't think I have to go into Jasper. Like we love Jasper, but like I don't think I have to go into depth with Jasper
I think you
because
do. I think you do.
Jasper is Jasper. Like
I think you
I
do.
don't want to say he's playing a dumb game, but
Why do
like again,
why do you
like I said before,
so why do you kind of not that he's necessarily playing a dumb game according to you, but what do you mean by that? Just kind of explain what you're kind of thinking of how he's playing so far. Just that he's relying too much on challenges and like not thinking about people's feelings or social game more.
I
Or
think Jasper is very. I don't want to say aloof, but like Jasper, like when Jasper says or does anything, regardless of whether he's lying or telling the truth, everyone sees right through him. Like he's not exactly being fully honest with people, which granted you're gonna have to lie to people in the game, but it's like even when he's lying, they know he's lying, and I just don't think he's like playing the best out of right what we've seen so far. Again, that could all change the next couple rounds or whatever happens. Like, for all we know, Jasper could go like dominant the rest of the game for all we know. But yeah, I don't know. But Jasper is Jasper, I think is the best way to say it, because he's like aloof, but he's not fully aloof. I don't know. But then we also have Emma, who I want to again like call out Emma because like she's seeming like playing amazing. She's getting good reads on everything going around. She has enough social awareness to be included in everything, as well as know like, hey, this is the most optimal move for me going forward. Like she's at least somewhat aware what's going on. Like, could she win? Depends on who she's up against, but she's playing pretty decently. I'd say definitely out of all the newbies so far up to this point, she would definitely be arguably the best.
So what do you think that Emma's doing better than maybe Kyle or Dan up to this point, if that's what you kind of mean by that?
I think what she's doing differently is that, kind of like I said, you want to keep your head down and your mouth shut in the early game. And I feel like Jasper definitely has not done that well. Like, Jasper will try too hard to cover his tracks to a point where he'll essentially almost like reveal that, like, yeah, I'm lying to you. And then Dan really, I don't think, had too much of a choice, considering that he went to like 3 of the first 5 tribals. But like, Dan kind of was like in a position where he was forced to kind of speak up, really fast. And it kind of like a lot of the decisions came down to what did Dan want to do. Like, getting Kyle Wilson out the first time was Dan's decision, pushing for that. Or no, the second time that was Dan. First time, I'm pretty sure Dan had a good chunk of it too. Second time, it was all Dan more than Kyle Shield.
Yeah.
And even this round, Dan's kind of like out there. Like, he's talking, campaigning to people, which is honestly what you want to do. But like, I mean, the first round of the merge is kind of like the last round. You should probably keep your mouth shut and lay down low. And then after that, pick up your game a little bit. Just because that first merge vote, usually it's historic because anything can happen that first merge vote. You never know what's going to happen. You only start to really recognize what's going to happen after that first merge vote. And I think like a big like example of that is Twist Manor and Whitewater, like where there's like 2 major alliances going on, Hunter and Darius' alliance versus Michael's alliance. Michael Rolston, me and Haley. Hunter and Darius have, I think it was like Rob and Juice, and then it kind of like, it seemingly to some people came down to what Jack and Nathan wanted to do. They wanted to make a big move, align with Michael and Haley or whatever. They could like tie the votes up, switch up the game, and like take out a big league like Hunter or Darius. Or if they wanted to do what they actually wanted to do, they gave Darius and Hunter control, take out Michael and easy vote, and then boom. Obviously, we know what decision they made, but it's kind of like whatever happens at first merge vote kind of dictates how the rest of the game is going to go. So I definitely think it was very interesting, I guess, overall, how a lot of these people are seemingly wanting to stick together, but they're not like wanting to stick with each other long term. I guess in a sense where some of them are already thinking about going after each other later in the game, which, yeah, you want to start thinking about that with a merge this small, but who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I think even before talking about Jasper, like you said, covering his own tracks really quick, I think he's just been playing in survival mode almost every round. I think partially because the tribes are very small, so I think you kind of have to make some big decisions, and you might have to be a little more outspoken because it wouldn't take much to get yourself out. And I do think though that maybe it hurt his alliance or maybe social game with Emma and Dakota by saying, yeah, I have this advantage, like I'm gonna be able to tell what you do. That was a little bit like over aggressive, I think. But I
think that definitely burdened some of them.
But at the same time, it got him through that round. If he didn't say that, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure he's out 3-1, like, no questions asked.
Exactly,
so it's definitely a learning curve, too. I mean, it's his first time playing, so I think there was some good to that because it got him through the round. But now it's like, well, now everybody wants me out because I'm kind of the villain of the season, would you say? Kind of is.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, I feel like covering his tracks, like, that's the one move that I actually forgot about completely.
Yeah.
I've been so tired the last, 5 days.
It's okay, no one's mad.
So, like, I do think that is a great move with Jasper in terms of, covering his tracks and playing aggressively. The problem is that, again, like survival mode, like, the first vote of the season, he gets a vote because he's seen as not helpful. And then the second round, it's clearly like Jasper's starting to worry a little bit because he's like, okay, like my name could easily be thrown out now that I've already gotten a vote. And then obviously he doesn't, but then it's like the next couple rounds, he's still in survival mode because of the fact that like, yeah, like I'm on a tribe with 3 other people who never been on a tribe with me before. So like he's kind of in survival mode. And then even again, when it's like him or Kyle Wilson going home, he's still like, there's a large chance it's going to be me since they wanted me out the last tribal. I don't have an idol. And again, that advantage play was definitely like a really good power move on his part, but he also only got Kyle Wilson now, and that wasn't that hard of a vote considering the fact that the 2 girls were thinking it's either Kyle or Jasper. But I mean, it definitely was a really good move Jasper made, but because he's had to play so aggressively and in survival mode, I think that's a huge reason why he's pretty much became the bigger target now that the merge has begun. They're like, he's already played so aggressively. He's he's like a villain almost of the season, although I kind of see him more as a heroic underdog just because he's been through all the odds earlier in the game. But like, I don't know. Like, I'm excited. Like, Jasper's definitely an entertaining player because whether he knows it or not, he can stir shit up. But, and I think that's it's like me in all my past seasons. Like, they see me as such a chaos starter that they don't want that around. And I think that's starting to become what Jasper, you know, I don't know. I'd love a season where it's like all the chaos starters are on one tribe, like just absolute batshit craziness. And the other tribe is like followers, like only people who have played as follower or as a lemming, and see if any of them would actually take control of their tribe. Like that'd be so funny to watch. Actually, I want that now. That'd be funny.
What are we called? Followers versus who?
Lemmings versus coaches. I don't know.
Calm versus chaos. How about that?
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun. Calm versus chaos. I'd love that. Oh, future season idea.
Yeah, why not? So, still going on in the episode. Obviously, we kind of talked about it, but then we get to Tribal Council, and right before Tribal Council, again, it's very clear that it seems like Dan and Arthur are kind of going for Kyle because that's what they're told, and they're cool with it, and they don't seem like they want to, you know, even though Arthur did put Dan's name out, they seem like they're fine with doing that instead. And then Dolphin Sam's kind of running the show, saying like, me, Jasper, and Kyle should be voting Dan, and Emma and Dakota should be voting for Arthur. So the plan is 3-2-2. Dan plays his idol. Let's vote Arthur out. If he doesn't, Dan's out with his idol. So we get the Tribal Council. Emma and Dakota, they vote for Arthur. Kyle and Dan, they vote for Kyle, like planned. 2-2. Sam and Kyle do what they said they're going to do. Vote for Dan. So it's 2-2-2. 3 twos. Reading the votes. Hunter reads the vote. And Mr. Illuminati himself, Jasper, says, you know what? If Arthur is that quick to just call out Dan and turn him that quick, how am I going to be able to trust him going further? So he decides to vote Arthur out instead of Dan. And did he know that he was going to be the person that voted Arthur out? I don't know about that, but he ultimately did decide at the end of the day who went out. And Arthur goes out. Dan stays in the game with his idol still in his pocket. I briefly talked to Dolphin Sam the other day about this while I was editing it, and he's like, yeah, me and Dakota are absolutely shocked what just unfolded. We're like, what the hell happened? So, wow, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a really good move Jasper made because I think this is the point where I was talking about before where he could turn up his game and like switch it up. This is that point I was talking about where Jasper clearly recognizes, like, hey, like, if he's already turning quickly on him, who's to say he's not going to turn against me later in the game? Like, he knows flat out, and he's taking the initiative to say, like, hey, fuck this. I'm not going to risk this happening to me. I'm going to do what I think is the right move to do. And although, again, like, it clearly shocked people, you know, Jasper had control of that. Say Jasper gets to the end, at least Jasper has that under his resume now, where he could say, like, yeah, Sam wanted to do this, but I wanted to do this instead, so it went my direction at my choice. And I definitely think that even if Jasper does have to win out till the end, he could very well use this move as a part of his resume. So that's definitely, and the whole thing with the merge vote before being an indicator of what's going to happen, people are shocked. Maybe this means chaos. So who knows? I definitely think it's very interesting. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, so that leaves 6 people now left in the game. As Arthur's first member, I know. Arthur's the first one of the
Like,
jury.
usually Final Six is like finale time, so it's just so weird to think like Final Six is only the second merge round. It's fun.
I know, it's definitely fun. Obviously, like, not exactly what you want in Survivor season, but it's fun to be a little bit different and see how it works out. And again, like, season 1 of Survivor Wisconsin was an only 8-person merge. We did that purposely because I feel like in Survivor Whitewater, a lot of people treated the pre-merge like it was like the easiest thing ever. Like, you should be able to get to the merge easily because it's only a few rounds. So the first season, we really upped the pre-merge to make it more valuable, and you have to play harder earlier, which was kind of the point of this new era of Survivor on idol identifiers.
I wouldn't know because I keep getting voted off early.
Right.
So.
And then even this one, I mean, there's still like, even though like 3 people only got officially out, there was still 5 rounds in the pre-merge, so it still was like a little bit of a longer pre-merge. But there's 6 people left. Dolphin Sam Oh yeah, let's touch on that real quick. Dolphin Sam has a steal vote. This was the last time he could play it. He decides not to do it because he said in his voting confessional, he said, "I'm not playing it because I don't want this to tip Dan off to say, oh, maybe I should use his idol," because he probably was going to steal Dan's vote. Now, he could have got Dan out there probably if he stole his vote, but who knows? Dan maybe plays his idol then, and then Arthur's out regardless. So what do you think of that really quick?
I definitely think it was a very interesting thing, and like it was definitely a really great move on Sam's part because he knows that like, hey, if I tip off Dan, he's gonna realize something. I mean, obviously, if he wanted to get the vote the way he wanted to go, he probably should have taken Jasper's vote. But it kind of like it's almost like a weird reflection.
Sorry to cut you off. Sorry to cut you off. But he even says, sorry to cut you off, but he even says too earlier. He says, I just don't. To him, he's like, I just don't know what Jasper. Kind of a wild card. I don't know if I can trust him. I've never been with him. And look what happened. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna say that. Like it's almost like Sam and Jasper were clearly the two in control of this vote.
Yeah.
Even though Jasper thinks he was more in control than he actually was, like it's very obvious Sam and Jasper are the ones in control. Sam is kind of back to the calm and chaos thing. Sam's a calm leader. He has pretty much an iron fist over what's going on. And you have Jasper, who's like just like a little like he's like the mouse from Looney Tunes. He's like running all over the freaking place. He's all like, no, this, like, and it's kind of just a reflection of both of their games. However, both of them still had the biggest impacts on this vote. So it kind of is almost like this calm versus chaos rivalry going on, and I don't even think anyone's recognizing it yet. So it's like, what's going to win? Being calm in a game or being chaotic and, edge of your seat?
Yeah, I mean, it's entertaining. I'll say that. So now with six people left, Dakota has an idol, and Dan has an idol. Nobody else, and Kyle has a steal vote. Or no.
Sam has the advantage.
Yeah. Dakota and Dan have idols. Dolphin Sam has the Ozzy advantage. He can use it with the final 6 or final 5 that gives him an advantage in the individual immunity challenge. And then Kyle has Stay Without Power. So that's what everybody has right now. Emma does not have anything currently, and Jasper does not have anything currently either. So it's going to be an exciting ride. Episode 6 probably, maybe next week, maybe later this week. We'll see what happens. But yeah, 6 people left. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I think watching it in person versus watching it back and editing, and I think this season was way more exciting than I thought it was, to be honest with you.
Definitely was. I can agree with that. Like, filming this season, being around, I'm just like, okay, like, what, like, I could tell what was going to happen. Obviously, you can when you're filming it, but, like, when you edit it back, like, it's so much fun watching everything and being like, oh, this is why something happened, and just all the stuff that got stirred up with it, so.
Yeah. I mean, up to you, Richie. Is there anything else you want to touch on? We can open another Zoom call and keep it going, or do you want to kind of cut it here and just move on to next thing going on idol identifiers?
We could probably move it on. I was just going to say winner picks or ideas of, like, power rankings. Like, definitely Sam, Emma, and Jasper definitely goes up a little bit. Dakota's in the middle, I would say, but that's just my thing.
So who do you think's in 6 right now? Last place right now. Who do you think's playing the worst up to this point, unfortunately?
The worst? Jasper's definitely in the middle now. I would have to say probably Kyle or Dan, just because Dan's on the bottom and Kyle kind of has the, like, he kind of what we said before, Kyle didn't take the initiative he should have taken, so.
Pretty exciting episode to start the merge. 6 people left. Episode 6 coming soon. Give us a like on here. Subscribe to Idol Identifiers. Richie, appreciate you joining me. That was a fun talk because we really didn't know. That was a pretty unpredictable episode that ended up unfolding. All right, Richie. We'll see ya. Thank you guys for watching.